Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Winnipeg Jets franchise mode here in NHL 24. So, in last episode, if you didn't catch it, we took on the St. Louis Blues in the second round, and we had a pretty tough time containing their top line. So, unfortunately, we lost the series in 7 games, which kind of sucked a lot considering St. Louis had never been really past the second round over the last decade. They did end up losing in the conference finals. But we technically, I felt like, should have had a better fate in that conference finals, in that second round. As you can see, won the first game 3-1. Then we lost 6-3, so it was not a great defensive effort. So that one definitely we didn't deserve to win in. Then we had a 5-3 win. Then we lost in overtime. If we didn't lose this game in overtime, the series could have been different. We could have had a 3-1 lead at that point. However, we lose that game. We then win the next game 6-0, so it looks a little bit promising at that point. But then we lose the next two games 3-1 and 4-3. So it was still a pretty close series, but obviously containing that top line of the Blues gave us a little bit more problems than I was anticipating. We did still have some good player stats, which was nice to see. At least like Blunden was actually really good in the playoffs. Ekholm was also solid, but you had a couple guys probably I'd say underperform a little bit. If we go down to the bottom of this list, you can see there was a couple guys like Bohms didn't even pick up any goals. He had 3 assists, which is okay. I was expecting maybe a little bit more out of Bryson Waters. Obviously, he was playing like 4 line minutes, but I think obviously with an elevated role next season, he should do a lot better. Also, we had like guys that were kind of surprising to show up. Asher King had 4 assists in 5 games, despite being kind of like a depth option for us for the most part. But we did have some okay scoring, I would say. There was not really any huge problems with the offense. The defense was the main problem with Waters and Bohms, is that they were both -8 through their 13 and 14 games they played. So there was definitely some issues with certain lines not performing as good as they should be. And then also in terms of goaltending, like Kalinin was pretty good when he did play, so at least he was keeping us in games, but our defense was just surrendering too much grade A chances, I guess. When Maximus Nash was in net, he was not absolutely terrible, but he was not good by any stretch. So obviously we need to be a better defensive team going forward if we want to win another Stanley Cup before the series ends. Now, another thing that was kind of crazy is we thought that Aiden Irving would decide to call it quits at 36 years old. Well, he's actually going to be coming back for another season. I don't know if it's just because he's still signed for 3 more seasons after this or what. But he is coming to come back for another year, which is pretty damn insane. So we'll see if we could get him a cup still before his career decides to call it quits. Obviously, he already has a lot of cups and a lot of career points in the playoffs and regular season, but he will be coming back for another year to captain the Winnipeg Jets. So that's going to be at least a little bit exciting. But anyways, before we get into the draft and resign stage, let's get in your guys' comments now and see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will get into the draft and resign stage. So the first and only comment is from Sandro Otaku, who says, with how much Irving dropped off, I'm surprised he didn't retire. If you want to end the series, at least wait for that to happen, though I expect it will happen after the upcoming season. Not sure who of Lalim or Bearable you should take, since neither players AHL eligible. Otherwise, it's time to see how the younger players might shine. And yeah, I'm not really sure what we're going to do in terms of the draft. I don't think it's going to be mattering at this point in time, considering how late into the series we are. But yeah, I'm hoping that obviously a lot of the younger guys that are like basically just jumping into the NHL, or guys like Marsh, for example, start breaking out, because that will definitely give us a big change to our team this season. Also, all of our defensemen except for Vandermeer are pending free agents, so I don't know how much of them will be back on the NHL roster next season. I mean, we could give chances to guys like Fawcett, Clarkson, and Gustafson if we really want to. Even Moreau's technically, because they're all 77s. But I'm not too sure how much of them I want in the NHL right now. Some of them might play in the AHL. So we will try and bring back guys like probably Backer for sure, I would say. I'm not too sure on the rest of the guys, though. Kopecky will definitely come back for sure, too. Zykov could potentially come back, but it really depends on, I guess, all their asking prices. And in terms of goaltending, we'll definitely have still Kalina next season, but Nash, I don't know if I'll be bringing him back. I might look for another backup goalie for him, just to change things up a bit. And our offense is pretty much already kind of set in stone for the most part. We do have some guys we could call up as like depth options for next season, but our forward group is pretty much already spoken for, I would say, for the most part. However, is there anybody that's expiring on the forward group that's really important? Not really. I mean, there's a bunch of RFAs, so those guys at least I'll be able to qualify, but guys like King might not come back as a depth option, unfortunately. But we should be able to get a lot of these other guys, like Cutler could be a depth option this season if we want to. So going to be interesting to see what this team's looking like next year by comparison to this season. So anyways, there's that. So let's get into the 2042 draft and see what we can snag up here. Also, quick note, rest in peace to Johnny Gaudreau. That news just came out late last night, and it's very tragic that what happened to him and his brother. So yeah, rest in peace. Just wanted to give a salute to him, and yeah, it's probably the biggest player death I've seen since Pavel Demitra when he was in the 2011 plane crash. So yeah, rest in peace to Johnny Gaudreau, and condolences to all his friends, families, teammates, etc. All right. Anyways, let's get to seeing what the top 5 of this draft is looking like, because I think we aren't going to try and move up. It's kind of pointless to try and move up. We are drafting probably late in this first round again, and it was a choice between, who was it that Center Talk was mentioning again? Bearable or Lalim? Let me take a look at Bearable and Lalim again, because I don't remember really how good they were. Did I have them pinned or no? Oh yeah, I guess I did have Bearable pinned. So Bearable's a goalie, and he looks like he's going to be almost NHL ready, which is pretty cool. So Bearable's interesting. Michel Lalim is 2 years out, which is kind of intriguing. I guess it depends if we have a second rounder or not. I honestly don't know if we do have a second round pick. Let's take a look at our picks here again. So that's 28, and that would be technically like, I guess, 58. Would that be 58? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I feel like that would be right around 58, that pick. So when was the other guy supposed to go? I think he's supposed to go earlier than that. I don't honestly know what we're going to still go with. I'll probably just wait till we get to our actual pick to make that decision. So anyways, let's take a look at the top 5 of this year's draft. Not that it matters too much, but McKay goes first overall. He's an 84 overall medium elite sniper, so that's a very good addition for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Really good shooting categories because he's 93 across the board already, so he's a 5-star shooter. Doesn't really have any weakness whatsoever other than his fighting skill, which is pretty awesome. So good little addition for the Tampa Bay Lightning to build around if they're actually still in a rebuild. The LA Kings take McTaggart, 2nd overall. He's an 80 overall 2-way forward with all alone. Has a better wrist shot than slap shot, but in general, this guy's pretty well built up. He also actually has good face-offs for a left winger, but isn't a centerman, which is kind of weird. But yeah, he looks like he's going to be a decent player. Dallas at number 3 is going to take Gennin, who's a 79 overall medium elite power forward. So this might be a good little steal there, considering this guy has good shooting. His wrist shot power is the only thing that's not a 90, which is kind of weird. But yeah, this guy once again also doesn't really have a weakness, because he's also very aggressive and he's good at body checking and all that. So some good players here in the top 5 of this year's draft class. Nashville at 4 is going to take Tyrell, who's a 78 overall medium elite offensive defenseman, so that's kind of nice. Mr. Tyrell looks like he's got really good shot power. His accuracy's okay. Obviously, that needs to improve if he's going to score goals at the NHL level. But yeah, he should be a really good skater. He's got the acceleration and agility. Like, he's going to be a very fast offensive defenseman. He does also have some size to him too, which is kind of interesting for an offensive defenseman. So maybe he'll simulate more like a 2-way. Hard to tell. And then finally, New Jersey at number 5 takes Jenner, who's a 79 overall right-wing playmaker. Yeah, solid top 5. Solid top 5. It's probably going to drop off considerably after that, but let's simulate to our picks, see what went before our selection, just in case there was any interesting steals that we could have potentially moved up to get. Looks like some generic top 6s and top 4s that you'd expect to see in almost every draft class. Yeah, pretty much that. There's a solid steal, though. Medium elite 64 overall sniper in Ninamaki as he goes to Boston. That's a good pickup. Also, that Skilly guy, 77 at top 6 at 18. That's a nice little pickup. Skylar Skilly, love to say it. And Penner as well. Some solid steals there, but in terms of potential, not really anybody else outside of that top 5. So the goalie might be the best option, to be honest, because he is the highest projected goalie. So in that sense, I feel like he should be an elite goalie prospect that's 2 years out only, which would be nice and helpful because he's supposed to go before Heinen. There is a chance that Bearable is also just a starter and he has a high overall. Like, the 2 years out is really interesting to me. Yeah, I think I might go for the goalie, to be honest here. Like, Lalime was a defenseman or a forward? I guess he was a forward, right? Where is Lalime? Oh, there he is. Yeah, I don't really like the looks of Lalime. I mean, he could be a low elite in 2 years out, but we have so many forwards that I don't really want to create a huge logjam. Goalies, at least, it gives us a prospect that we could develop for a few years before the end of the series, because I think I still might want to run the series all the way till the end. However, NHL 25 might appear before that happens. So, yeah, let's go with Walter Bearable with our selection here. Our first time taking a goalie, I believe, in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. 69 overall medium starter, so he is a good starting overall, but only having starter potential kind of sucks. Was hoping for a medium elite at least, but 69 at 18 is really good. Like, if he gets a good enough development within a year, he could be like almost NHL ready within 1 to 2 seasons. And in terms of weaknesses, like, he's pretty balanced. Like, a lot of 77s in his reflexes, like literally all 77s. His puck control stats, he's got really good puck playing frequency, so maybe he's going to be a good passing goaltender, kind of like a Mike Smith in that idea. And in his athletic skills, his vision isn't the best, but everything is pretty balanced. Like, he doesn't really have a set full-on weakness, which is pretty good. So Walter Bearable is going to be an interesting goalie. He is a butterfly goalie too, so looking forward to seeing what that guy does if he gets to the team before the series ends. All right, let's simulate to our next pick at 58. Is there anything else really intriguing in this draft? I honestly don't think so. Booze might be a low elite here, and an offensive defenseman based on his size. John Rivers looks like just the most basic white guy, probably. Jacques Corbet, good shooter, but pretty much it, I would assume. Is there anybody else I pinned? No. Interesting. I might be leaning towards taking Booze just because he could be an offensive defenseman. And he looks like he could be like maybe a low 4. He could be a low elite. Let's take a chance with Brendan Booze here. And he is a low 4 offensive defenseman, I called it. 62 overall. That's a decent starting overall, though. And yeah, he has some also some good offensive attributes. He should develop into being something, I would assume. At least at the AHL level, but honestly, who knows if these guys will make it before the series ends. And we do have one more pick here in the second round as well, which I could take a chance on somebody else, like Corbett or something like that. Corbett's just a shooter, though. I might just go for John Rivers. No, he looks like crap. Backer, Yeah, this draft class is not really that good. Ed Janik. Ed Janik looks okay. 3 years out. He's probably a top 6 still. Let's just take him. He's 20 years old already, though. You know what? We'll take him anyways. 65 overall, medium top 6D at 20. We'll see if he ends up developing enough. He can play in the HL already, but I prefer probably to wait a little bit. I honestly might trade away a lot more of my picks because this draft class is very shallow. Hey, Corbett's still there. I'm kind of surprised on that. Sure, let's just take Corbett because of the shooting category. Low 6, 61, Does he have good shooting? Yeah, he does. Okay. I think I might honestly simulate the rest of this, though. Let's see. Is there anything else worth taking? This guy's not medium elite, is he? If he is, he's going to be 5 years out at 20. He probably wouldn't be worth taking. Another goalie in Jankumov's 4 years out. It's not really that bad, but at this point, I honestly don't really know what I would take. I don't think I want a 20-year-old medium elite because I don't think he would develop fast enough, especially at 5 years out. There is Slychuk who could be low elite. Shannon Slychuk's already 20 as well, though. You know what? We'll take Slychuk. It's kind of a cool last name. Low 6 as well. 65 at 20, not bad in terms of overall, but yeah, I think this draft class is pretty crap. So I think I'm going to try and trade away the rest of our selections here just because it doesn't seem worth it to me. So if we go to offer trade, who wants the rest of my selections? Let's see what we got here. 2 4s, a 5th, 6th, and a 7th. Let's give that to the Columbus Blue Jackets in honor of Johnny Gaudreau. And you could take, literally, I'll take a 7th round pick for next year. I don't even need something high value. I'm just going to give it to them to be nice. So there you go. Enjoy the free picks there, Columbus. Hopefully you get something good with that. And that will be our draft. So there is our draft. And now we got to get to the Resign stage, which I'm a little bit skeptical about how much cap space we might have left. So maybe I should have traded somebody there to free up cap space. But I think all those defensemen being pending free agents, we should have the cap space to re-sign players that we want to, but the defense and stuff like that is going to be a major work in progress, I would say, for next season. Like, I'm kind of skeptical about how it's going to look. So, yeah, a little bit nervous about the defensive core especially. Goaltending should be okay. Offense is definitely going to be okay. But the defense is going to be the most up in the air thing with our team, I think. And also, I'm kind of nervous about how low of an overall Aiden Irving will be for next season because I want him playing in the NHL, hopefully. Hopefully it's like a 4th-line guy with power play time if he has dropped off a decent amount. Like, I don't want to use him as a depth forward because that just would be kind of a rude thing to do. That would be like what happened with Mike Modano in Detroit. So, we just can't let a player play his entire career here and just decide to let him sit on the bench the entire time. Like, he deserves to play. Obviously, being a leader in the locker room and all that. Alright, so that's all our scouts. Alright, re-sign stage. How much money do we got? 47 million. That's actually pretty good. Jackson's ready for the AHL. Lee Jackson. Yeah, you know what? Lee Jackson could get a contract. Sure. I'll give you an ELC. Foster's technically ready too. 68 at 18 is actually pretty good. He should develop well enough within a year. Trying to think of, do I want to sign him already? You know what? Yeah, we'll sign him already. I think 68 is useful already for the AHL. Try and get that AHL team to do as good as they possibly can. Yeah. Okay, in terms of RFAs, let's qualify a lot of the lower end guys. Just because, obviously, we do not have a ton of cap space, really. But still, those guys qualify. Gustafson's going to be NHL bound, probably, yeah, this season for sure, based on that. We'll just qualify all of them, though. Kopecky as well. He should be NHL bound, so that's exciting. Holmquist only wants a 1-year deal, $950. You go to 8 years, he wants 3.6. So he's probably going to still develop into being something good. I'll still qualify him while I have the chance to. And then Bryson Waters... yeah, let's qualify you as well, and we'll also qualify Harrison. Perfect. Okay, so RFAs are dealt with. UFAs, most of these guys are defensemen, which is not great. In terms of prospects, Smith Pelly needs his entry-level deal. He was our first-round pick a few years ago, so I guess we'll give him his ELC because of that. Klimchuk's at 68 at 20, which ain't bad for a low 6. Does have really good shot accuracy, but I don't like that potential. Would I sign him over Rudy Carson? Probably. I could sign them both, to be honest, and then just let go of, like, Scrimes. Yeah, I think that might be the play here. Is let go of a couple of veterans and sign some of these younger guys. Kind of get the AHL team, getting the youth movement going forward. So, I'll also let go of Bannister, just because Bannister might be filling up a void that we don't need. Scrimes will let go of. I might hold on to Baker if he wants to come back for a 1-year deal. Moroz could get his ELC as well. Clarkson. Do I want to bring back Clarkson? It's not too expensive, and he might honestly be an NHL defender for us next year. I guess it depends on the other defenseman first and foremost. Bomick wants a 2-way, so we'll try and hold on to him. Clarkson wanted a 1-way, right? Yeah. Let's see. And then Maximus Nash I'm going to let go of for sure. I think I'm going to advance today just so I could see if any of these guys reject first, and then we're going to kind of make some decisions with the defensive core. I think for sure Kang has to leave the team because or else Aiden Irving would have to be a scratch, and I do not want Aiden Irving to be a scratch regardless. So let's see. Wow, it looks like both those AHL coaches are leaving. So Jack Eichel wants to go away. That's interesting. That kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Let's just go through this quickly. And do we have any rejections? No, we do not. That's good. And except for Bomick, I guess. RFAs are still dealt with. Kind of want to hold on to Bomick just because he's a depth option. So let's try and get him to sign here. The question is the defense. I am going to let go of Kang for sure here, just because of like what I was mentioning. Solid depth option, 9 points in 25 career games, 6 points in 10 playoff games. Obviously, I could probably afford to bring him back, but he doesn't want an extension because he was used as a healthy scratch a lot. Like, he's actually pretty cheap, but we're going to let him go for now. We could bring him back if you guys want me to. And then it comes down to the actual defensive core itself, pretty much. We have 46 million. These guys are not going to cost me too much, like probably like 1 point something, and then under $1 million. So we should be able to hypothetically re-sign a good chunk of these guys depending on their price point. So let's start by looking at Roloff, because Roloff is technically our best defenseman. 7.725. That's not really that bad when you compare him to the rest of the league in terms of what they're asking for. Isn't an offensive guy by any stretch, but he definitely helped us out a lot in defense. Is he worth bringing back? Probably. There's also Kress, who's a year younger. He's trying to get right around the same, but not as much term. Backer wants $6 million. Backer on $6 million by 5x6 is not really that bad. Yeah, you know what? We're going to do that for Backer. I do like Backer, actually, coming back on that deal. DePenta's an interesting defenseman, too. DePenta's trying to get paid way too much still. Like, I don't know what's his point. Like, I get, yet he's a good goal-scoring defenseman. Had 43 points this year. But he's trying to get almost $9 million. That's kind of an interesting one to think about. What about Zykov? And I'm going to let go of Zykov. I think he's asking for a bit too much as a 78. Clarkson as a 77 really isn't asking for too much, so let's try and get him back. And then it comes down to bringing back like Roloff, Kress, and DePenta. We already have Vandermeer for next season. So if I let go of Kress, DePenta would be in the top 4. Right now if I re-sign all these guys, we'd have 5 top 4 defensemen. And I don't want to have 5 top 4 defensemen, so I probably might let go of DePenta just based on his asking price. Because he thinks that he's going to have a really good year this year, it looks like. And he might not be worth that at all. Like, maybe I give him a 1-year deal just to see how he does. But I feel like he's just not going to have a good year. He could end up winning a Norris Trophy, too, though. Yeah, I really do like his offense. Like, he's 63 points in 125 games as a defenseman with 26 goals. Is pretty solid. You know what? We're going to give him a 1-year trial deal, which means I think I'm going to let go of Kress, and I'm going to bring back Roloff, I think. Should I go with the older defenseman? Yeah, I think Roloff might be my favorite option of the two. Because Kress, actually, how good was Kress this year? Plus 34, 30 points. That's actually really useful, too. Better defensively in the playoffs than DePenta. That's actually really tough to decide on this. Do I want to bring back DePenta on a 1-year deal? Don't know if he would want to come back on a 1-year deal. Let's try and offer him a 1-year deal because he might be like, hey, nah, I want the term or something like that, you know? So let's try 1 year and just see if he would actually accept that. Might be an overpayment too, but I think it's worth it because obviously it keeps our defensive core a little bit stronger. And I think I want to bring back both Roloff and Kress, to be honest. But the term is like an interesting part. 7.4 for a year. 7.4 for 1 year might be okay. You know what? I'm going to try and get some of these guys on just 1-year deals just for the time being. Kress wants right around the same. I don't know if Kress is worth 7. Let's try and get him a little bit there. I'll see if any of those guys reject. I offered them all contracts. I could trade one of them away in next episode if they all accept and we don't want to hold on to one of them. Did anybody reject out of those defenders? That'll be the interesting thing to see. We have so much scouts that are accepting now too, though, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Let's see. So Clarkson rejected. Roloff renewed. DePenta renewed. Backer renewed. Caress also renewed. So all 4 of those defensemen decided they'd come back, except for Clarkson. And Clarkson, I don't even remember when we brought this guy in. He was part of a trade. Was an okay depth defenseman, to be honest. Oh yeah, he's the enforcer defenseman, that's right. You know what, I might honestly hold on to him too. We actually should have enough cap space to re-sign everything, potentially this offseason. A lot of those guys are on 1-year deals, which means that they will be on trial runs, and if we're not a playoff team, we could obviously flip them away, but I think it's good just to make this team as competitive as possible still, because Aiden Irving is still here. So, we'll try that. We'll also try and get, once again, Bomick to accept a 2-way deal, just because it would be nice and useful to have him as a depth option, maybe in the NHL, depending on things. Let's see, looks like Clarkson has re-signed, which is good, and Bomick's still rejecting that 2-way contract. Do I need him? Do I need him that much? Like, if I go to in the system, technically he and Cutler would be good depth options this season. So, I guess I could offer him a 1-way. See if he'll accept $1 million. And then we'd be down to $19.4 million. To basically sign all these guys and sign ourselves a backup goalie. I don't think that's a bad idea. Wow, he's still rejecting 1 by 1. He doesn't want to be a part of this team anymore. So I guess we'll find a new depth forward. That's okay with me too. So Bomick will leave. And all those guys should accept for relatively cheap at some point. So the only thing we really need, I think, is a backup goalie, because we got ourselves our defensive core fully back, which is awesome. I didn't expect to be able to afford all those guys. Roloff and Kress obviously on trial deals for 1 year. Backer signed long term. DePenta on a 1-year deal. Vanimir's up for renewal in a few years, I think. Actually, never mind. He's not for quite a while still. We also have Kopecky making the NHL. And then there's the guys like Fawcett and Moroz who could be in the NHL too. So Kopecky honestly might be the 6th defenseman. And then Clarkson would be the 7th. So our defensive core, I think, is pretty much set in stone. Goaltending, we need a backup still, as I was mentioning. And then offensively, we got 4. We got 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 with Baker, and 14 with Cutler as our depth options, potentially. That's not bad. So I think we literally only needed just a backup goalie, and we are pretty much good. So our cap space is pretty nice, so I think we should be good enough to make the playoffs again next season. Just depends on the coach, I guess. Some of our RFAs are already accepting, which is good. AHL is going to get some new coaches, which is okay. Final few things we got to take a look at: the free agent pool, the trading block, and also, I guess, some other things too, potentially. So, yeah, let's look for a backup goalie. Let's see what we got for backup goalies. Obviously, we'll do this in the next episode about signing free agents, but let's take a look at the best free agents available, just in case we want to get rid of anybody on our roster and upgrade them. So the best free agent center is, what's his name, Bill? Yeah, Bill Sweeney. I do remember you. At first I was going to say Bob Sweeney, but that was a guy that played back in the 90s. So there's some okay centers, but obviously, like I said, we don't really need any forwards. We just pretty much need, unless we want to upgrade our depth forwards, I guess, like Baker and all that, we could always bring in some depth forwards, but like Jamal Hurd's back in there, but he's listed as a 4th liner. I think our number one priority is just bringing in a backup goalie. And in terms of left wingers, Haken, I think it's Vesa, right? Yeah, Vesa Haken, former Islander. That's a pretty nice free agent. Not that we need that anyways, but still. Shout out to whoever's going to sign him. Some guy named Rabbit. Obviously, Kang's there. Yeah, there's some okay players in terms of offense. Not a bad free agent crop. There's been some pretty bad ones in the past. Right wing side, I think the best is Gilbert. 25-year-old high 6 who went 25th overall. Wow. Interesting. Okay, Braden Gilbert. Then afterwards is an 81. So not a lot on the right wing side of things. Not that we need anything anyways, but right wing is a little bit barren. In terms of defensemen available, Carter is the best free agent. That's the guy that was on San Jose, right? Yeah, wow. That was the guy we were thinking about potentially trading for as a DFD. And he is testing the free agent market. He's only made the playoffs 3 times with the Sharks. He's 26 years old, was the former 3rd overall pick only not even a decade ago. He's trying to get $15 million though. Wow. I mean, we could free up cap space to go after him, but I'm not going to do that, I don't think. As good as a defenseman as he is, I don't think it's worth paying a guy $15 million on defense. Palin has 1 year that he wants, and he's a pending he is a free agent. That's interesting. So Dennis Palin, after a miserable time in Vegas, will be back in the free agent market. He's only played in the playoffs 1 time since playing with us. I do like Palin, but I don't think he's worth 12.2 at this stage of his career. Louis Varr is also in free agency. So some former players, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I don't really think we need any defensemen. But always fun to look just in case. And in terms of our goalies that are available in free agency, Mills is in free agency. So after we dealt Mills to Toronto, he is now testing the free agent market a few years later. Hasn't been super good since being in Toronto. Only made the playoffs 1 time. But shout out to Mills, who should get paid a good amount of money. Not a lot of term necessarily, though. We do need a backup. The best available is our former goalie, Maximus Nash. However, there is also some guys like Laurent Demers, who doesn't look the best based on those stats. Jean Dagenet looks pretty good. Was that NHL? Yeah, it was. A 910 save percentage. And a 939 in the AHL playoffs. Jean Dagenet might be the most interesting one. We did have Bohinski at one point, I believe. Yeah, it was only briefly. He's also been pretty good. Last year he had a 912 in Tampa. So Jim Bohinski's still kind of good too if we wanted to bring him back. Other than that, most of these other goalies are not posting up the best numbers as a backup. Bobrovsky probably not playing in the NHL, right? Yeah, AHL had a 921. Has played some NHL time and had an 894. So yeah, he's not the best goalie either. So yeah, there's not a lot in terms of the free agent market for goaltenders. But if you guys wanted me to bring in one of these goalies as a backup, let me know. So there's the free agent market. In terms of the trading block, just in case we want to make trades, because we obviously do have a lot of prospects. Let's see what's out there, just in case. If there's anything that kind of catches our eye. Right now, this looks like prospects and picks, which is not really what we're looking for. Chartrand, who's an RFA at the moment, they don't have enough cap space, I guess, to sign this guy. We don't really need another forward like that. But Yves Chartrand's a pretty solid player. Came off a 30-goal season. Huh, that's interesting. He'd probably cost too much money, to be honest. Wang's not bad either. It's like a bottom 6 option. But I don't really want to scratch Aiden Irving, like I said. Philip Groshek's on the block now at 33 years old. Shout out to Philip Groshek, making $12.1 million still for the next 5 seasons. Is playing pretty good years in Carolina. Looks like they must have, yeah, they made the playoffs and he had 18 points in 18 games a year ago. Yeah, he's actually pretty good still, but obviously I don't think he really fits this team anymore. Logan Scarlett's also on the block, so a lot of former guys of ours are starting to drop off because Scarlett's already 33 years old. Wow. Kind of crazy that he spent his entire time in Chicago after we flipped him there. Like, I'm actually impressed that Chicago has held on to him as long as he did. Because usually goalies leave the free agency quite often, I feel like. Another former player of ours, Julian Fairchild. He was up to an 86. Wow. Shout out to Julian Fairchild. Yeah, he's actually playing pretty good since leaving us. Like, we got rid of him kind of early into his career. And then, yeah, he's been really good. 73 points at his peak. So shout out to Julian Fairchild for being actually a pretty good player. And then, yeah, he's getting paid over $10 million. So he's a little overpaid, but he's a good player. Which is at least happy for me to see that. Because obviously it's nice when those type of guys pan out. Another former guy. Literally every single player of ours that used to play with us are on the block. It's like they all got overpaid or something. Jaquezi's on the block by Edmonton. He only played 1 year in Edmonton so far. And they didn't even make the playoffs. But he had 81 points in 82 games. Who knows if Arthur will be on a different team for next season, but he only has a couple of years left on his contract. It would be nice to have him back, but there's not really a need for him anymore with Marsh being on the team. Let's see. Minnesota has nothing. Nothing really there either in Montreal. Lacerte as a backup's not a bad option, to be honest. He is 34 years old and getting paid $9 million, though, but He is in the AHL, which is kind of strange because a few years ago, I believe he won the Vezina right here when he had a 920 save percentage. But after other years than that, he wasn't the best. Actually, maybe he was okay. 915, 912, 913. Huh. I mean, I would take him as our backup goalie if he was on 50% retained. But I doubt Montreal's going to want to retain on him, even if it's only for 1 year. There's also Rodin. He has dropped off quite a bit, too. Career-long Nashville Predators goaltender. Had some Vezina trophies, I believe, in this series at some point. Huh, that's interesting. He is an 83 overall. He'd probably drop off to a backup next season. There's also Motto as a forward. There's actually some intriguing players. But at the same time, I don't really know what I would want to bring in. In terms of the Islanders, there's Labrie, who's an offensive defenseman. Is actually somewhat solid offensive. Huh. 50 points last season. Alright. Semin, Radulov, Ryder. Yeah, there's some good players. But I don't think we need the forwards for sure. Stanley King is on the block too. I swear literally every former player of ours is on the block. Stanley King, since leaving us, has been kind of a mixed bag. Not the best player in the world, but still winning games. Has played only one time in the playoffs since leaving us. Ouch. So shout out to Stanley King now. What else we got here? Literally too much former players. Kavapel, I think we were looking at potentially trading for this guy last year, right? He is 34 years old. Or no, he was in free agency, I think, maybe, right? No, he was on the trading block, I guess. Pretty good defenseman in terms of playing good plus-minus wise, but I don't think I really want a defensive upgrade. It would just be finding a backup goalie, probably. Because we already got like 5 top 4 defensemen right now. So we might be already overcrowded a little bit on the defensive side of things. And that is it for the trading block, okay? Find out a few things. Let me actually take a look at the morale, see if there's anybody that's actually not wanting to be on this team that maybe we would trade away if we are to upgrade some certain areas. Kalinen's low on morale, but he's just a goalie, and he was just coming back from injury. Looks like for the most part, everybody's happy on this team. Coleman, Backer, leader, so it was good that we re-signed Backer to that contract because he's a leader. AHL, any low morale players? Just Jackson, who's probably a little bit nervous to play his first AHL games this season. Same with Foss. Alright, it's not that bad. 79% locker room chemistry in the AHL and 71% in the NHL. So I think this team's going to make it back to the playoffs again. I really do. Obviously, the backup goaltender is something we need to address. We could also get a starter if we don't trust Kalinin enough, but I think Kalinin will be fine. And then in terms of our defense, like I said, we might have a bit too much top 4 defenders. Like, one of these guys will have to play top 6 and stuff like that. And then one of these guys would actually, Clarkson would be the depth option, which means Fawcett. Moreau is probably back to the AHL again. Likely will be the case. And Aiden Irving is like very fringe NHL player right now. Like, he's probably going to be a 4th liner. That's how I see it right now. But if he is a 4th liner, he might not get a lot of time other than that. He might get some power play time, but it depends on the development of our other prospects and all that type of thing. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Winnipeg Jets franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to free agency. We might sign a couple players. We'll definitely sign a backup goalie. We could sign some depth forwards if we really wanted to upgrade our depth forwards like Baker and all that. It might not be necessary to do so. So I don't even think it's something we need to really do. But definitely we need to find ourselves a backup goalie at least. So that way we have pretty much a good balanced roster again like last season. And I hope that this team could go on a good run this year, considering it could be probably Aiden Irving's last season of his career. So, down below, and I'll see you guys next time.